river kept going. The salmon couldn't. For more than a century, dams cut salmon off from habitat upstream. The journey stopped at cold concrete walls. By 2024, the final barriers were gone. Roughly 420 miles of salmon habitat had reopened. Water ran through 4 former dam sites. But no one could order a fish to return. People could reopen the river. Only the fish could decide whether to use it. Early reports recorded salmon passing former dam sites into reopened reaches. It looked like an answer until fish vanished around the bend. What happens next? Before a machine could touch the concrete, years of negotiation had to answer one practical question: who would remove the dams and how? The answer had to make it possible to reopen a route salmon could no longer use, connecting lower river water to upper reaches again. In 2020, California, Oregon, the Yurok tribe, the Karuk tribe, Pacify Corp., and the Klamath River Renewal Corporation signed the memorandum to carry removal forward. An agreement does not move a fish. It made the physical work possible. The dams came down, channels joined, and water was released through places where it had been held back. By 2024, the Klamath could again run through all 4 former dam sites. Yurok and Karuk involvement belongs on both sides of that change. They helped shape the agreement, and now their crews return to the reopened river with field equipment, ready to learn what salmon do after the concrete disappears. For salmon, the change is physical before it is historical. A fast run leads to a quiet bank where a fish can hold. A seam joins 2 currents. Gravel appears below clear water. A bend opens into another reach instead of a reservoir edge. Each feature is part of a route, not a promise about what the fish will do next. The river line that once meant stop now keeps going. Water moves over stone, past former works, and into upper country. That is the route the first salmon were found using. At a former dam site, the Klamath narrows over stone and runs on. Salmon enter that push of water and keep climbing through ground where their upstream route had been interrupted for generations. The water accelerates over the old footprint, then spreads into another open reach above it. On a map, the old dam site is now only a coordinate. For salmon, it is a point passed and left behind. Fish hold along a sheltered bank, cross a seam, and drive through another run. The 420 miles on a map become distance taken in pieces. Cold water, resting space, gravel, turning current, and the next reach. A tail flashes beneath the surface, then vanishes under ripples as the channel opens again. None of those pieces proves a complete return. Together they make passage visible. The old stopping point now lies behind the fish. A former endpoint has become a midpoint. They pass it as living bodies working against water, while the current continues upstream into another reach. The fish round the bend. Current follows, but the bank hides them. From shore, the confirmed crossing ends at a line of trees, while the channel continues into upper water that cannot be seen from this former dam site. Where do they go after the bend? Which upper water receives them? Does movement into reopened country lead to signs of spawning? Those questions begin only because the river now has somewhere else to go. Below former Iron Gate, a reach of open water becomes the first place to meet that mystery. Fish pass through current, while crews prepare to learn what a crossing can reveal. Above the former dams, water divides around side channels, tributary mouths, gravel bars, and shaded banks. A fish can follow the main current or slip into another reach. From shore, the next move disappears around the bend. The people who helped make removal possible are also part of the search after passage. Yurok and Karuk crews work beside the reopened river, turning a salmon vanishing upstream into questions they can pursue. First comes a count, then a name, then a signal farther upstream. Eventually, the search reaches gravel. Below former Iron Gate Dam, Yurok and Karuk crews operate sonar, sending sound through the water as salmon and steelhead move upstream. On a screen at the station, passing bodies become the first answer. How many crossed here, and when? At the bank, crews briefly lift fish in nets, identify the species, and release them back into the current. The next answer has a name: salmon or steelhead, continuing through the reopened route. Before some of those fish are released, a radio tag is attached. Released fish slip back into the current carrying a signal that can appear farther upstream. Farther upriver, telemetry receivers wait beside the basin. The Klamath Tribes operate 3 upstream of the former dams. When a signal reaches one, the fish has entered this upper part of the reopened river. A receiver does not turn the river into a straight line. The fish moves on between stations, past banks, and tributary mouths, around bends where current hides the next reach from everyone on shore. Field teams follow the signals along water and bank. Each new signal narrows the search, then sends crews farther upstream, toward the next bend, tributary, or reach. At gravel, crews look for the clearest sign yet. Did fish entering the reopened route leave spawning evidence here? The search leaves the station behind. Crews move toward the next bend, tributary, or gravel reach, following open water into country salmon could not reach for generations. At gravel, the river holds the next possibility. If salmon begin spawning in reopened reaches, young fish would face the next part of the journey. Whether that begins here remains unknown. For salmon, young fish move downstream with the current. They pass shallow edges, side channels, tributary mouths, low banks, and deeper pools, as the river carries them away from the gravel where they began. Each bend replaces one shelter with another stretch of moving water. It is a journey made in pieces of current, cover, and changing water. The direction has changed, but the journey is not simple. A small fish uses cover along the bank while the channel bends toward lower water. For the reopened Klamath, young fish moving downstream would be the next sign. Farther downstream, the river widens into an estuary. Fresh water meets the tide, salt water presses in, and young salmon adjust as river current mixes with the coast. The tributaries and gravel of the upper basin fall behind. The river journey becomes a coastal one. Beyond the estuary, salmon enter the ocean. Open water replaces the river corridor. Food, weather, and predators shape what comes next. For fish from reopened reaches, that crossing would still lie ahead. That is a second disappearance, larger than the bend upstream. The first disappearance sends crews along riverbanks, looking for signals and gravel evidence. The second carries young salmon beyond receivers, tributaries, and the visible coast, into water no river station can follow. No observer on shore sees every part of it. At sea, the journey continues away from the river tools that record passage. For salmon, ocean years and a later return to fresh water are parts of a longer cycle, measured beyond the removal date. The river is only one part of that longer life. That possible return begins at the river mouth, with salt water behind it and fresh current ahead. It is measured in years, not in the moment the dams came down, and it cannot be assumed from one first upstream crossing. If adults return, open current now reaches past the former dams, and upper water waits beyond the bend. The route has changed. Whether fish use it through later stages remains a question for observation. That is why first passage matters without answering everything. It documents use of the reopened route, while later observations must show what follows beyond the first crossing. The bend and the ocean hold different kinds of absence. The first sends crews upstream, looking for signals and gravel evidence. The second belongs to salmon life beyond the river. Whether future young fish from these reopened reaches complete, that journey remains unknown. People can mark 2020, when the agreement was signed, and 2024, when the final barriers came down. Those dates name decisions, construction, removal, and a milestone reached on a human calendar. They can be placed on a timeline, archived in an agreement, and remembered as the years when 4 dams ceased to divide the Klamath. Salmon keep time differently. A crossing can be seen in one field season, but the meaning of that movement depends on later seasons and years that no calendar date can compress. A completion date can be written on paper. It cannot make the next signal arrive, put evidence in gravel, or bring an adult back through the river mouth on schedule. People can finish removing a dam before salmon can show what removal changed. The route is open now. What salmon make of it can only emerge through repeated observation across seasons and years. When a new field season begins, crews return to the water. They count crossings, listen for signals, walk tributaries, and examine gravel. Each fish leaves a different trace in the same river. The people working beside the Klamath can mark dates, watch seasons, and return to the river. Salmon move on another clock. A field season can end at dusk, while the consequence of one upstream crossing remains unknown until a later season, or years beyond the river mouth. 4 dams are gone, and salmon have entered reopened reaches. The milestone is real. The longer record, built from crossings, signals, searches, and future observations, still has time to unfold. The field season ends with a receiver beside the river. Winter water rises through the former dam corridor. When crews return next season, the same station waits beside the current. A later season may bring another crossing or a signal in upper water. It may also bring crews back to wait beside the station. The river still needs time to answer. At the bend, the river keeps going. Now salmon can, too. The Klamath has not been given a finished ending. It has been given back a route. The river opened. The return has begun. If you'd like more evidence-led stories of recovery, subscribe to TerraEcho. We'll meet you in the next landscape.